Hello football, today we will talk about the upcoming match between Manchester City and PSG. This is a real battle of sheikhs who have been waiting for the conquest of the Champions League for 10 years and now at least one of them will be in the final. In my last review, if you weren't looking, we talked about a pair of Chelsea and Real Madrid. The link to this issue will be in the description. Today we will discuss all the same things: the schedule, the layouts before the match, the injured players, how the team is showing itself now in terms of stability, and what most interesting, we will try to put ourselves in the place of Thomas Tuchel. Oh, Thomas Tuchel! We already imagined how we would play against Thomas Tuchel if we were in boots of Mauricio Pochettino and in the place of Pep Guardiola too. That is how we would play in the place of those coaches against this particular opponent. Well, all-time codes will be in the description. We do everything for your convenience. So, for beginning, the schedule. And here in general everything is fine for both teams. PSG has particularly no serious rivals left, and Man City will have a meeting in the Cup tournament against Tottenham before the Champions League. I honestly don't think it will be any problem for them. Even if they lose, well, okay. Regarding the championship race, also the advantage is on the side of Manchester City, because they have a solid supply of points. They can lose a few of them before the end of the season, for it is not a problem. They can release on the field young players somewhere, so they are doing well. But PSG has to win absolutely in all matches, because they still need to score many points to finally become champions for sure. And if we will pay attention to the stability of the teams at the moment, then also the advantage is on the side of Manchester City. During the season they did not lose at all, and only in the last couple of months they give up a little, and sometimes they play the fool, I think because of an overabundance of confidence and self-esteem. And PSG's whole season turns out to be very turbulent, but at the same time in important matches the team can gather and literally tear apart the opponents. Moreover, whom did PSG win? Bavaria and Barcelona. That is, teams that have a lot in common with their upcoming rival Manchester City. Both, or rather all three teams, like to own the ball, to have an advantage in front. They sometimes like to leave the line of defense, some of them even try to cover with some, I don't know, 3 central players, speaking in a simple way, but all the same the Parisians will always find their chances for counter-attacks. Plus, they try to put pressure high, and PSG likes to get out of the pressure. They have resources for this, so for the PSG the match will be somewhat familiar, and this is a plus for this team. Now briefly about injuries. At Man City everything is finally working out and all the players are in the ranks, but it's hard to say whether it's good or bad, honestly. On the one hand, yes, there is room for creativity, good, but on the other hand, Pep came up with interesting ideas in limited difficult conditions, such as playing without attackers and the role of Gundogan. But when Guardiola has everything he can have, that is, when he has all the resources, when he has every shade of paint to paint on this football easel some kind of beauty that we shall contemplate. In such conditions he begins to invent something. Even in the recent match in the two-legged confrontation against Borussia, there were already the first bells that something was not right, and at some point something would crack, burst, fart and so on. So if Borussia now does not yet have such a serious status and resources, at least with Terzic, to use it for its own benefit, then the PSG will certainly not forgive such jams, and the slightest gap will be immediately caught by Parisians. PSG, by the way, is also doing well in general, except perhaps the fact that Bernat was eliminated before the end of the season and Diallo and Marquinhos should be fully prepared for the match. I have nothing more to add here. So, if I summarize now all these pre-match layouts, which I repeat do not always fully give an idea of what will happen in this match, because this is the Champions League, everything is unpredictable here, but nevertheless it's worth doing it, I don't know, according to some fixtures rules. So, if we compare all these factors, I think there is a slight advantage on the side of PSG, because Manchester City is a convenient opponent and it will definitely put pressure. Manchester City always puts pressure pressure in any situation, whoever plays there, and it always tries to do it in an organized way, and PSG has an ability to get out of this pressing. Therefore, there will always be at least a couple of chances ahead for the match for Mbappe and Neymar. And if you take in mind what a gorgeous form Neymar is now, how he dragged his PSG in the recent confrontation against Bavaria, and you see in one match he played for the team, in the second match he played only on his own and dragged all the way with individual skills, well, PSG probably has a little more chances. Plus, in recent time, the City has again had problems with opening the opponent's penalty area, and PSG, on the contrary, in the last Champions League matches against strong opponents, proves that it can play well in defense. For example, the Bayern did not find anything better than to endlessly pass into the penalty area. Somewhere, of course, they can bounce back, but still they try to play reliably there. And the biggest plus is Pep Guardiola. Pep Guardiola, who can come up with the whole game himself, make it himself, paint the whole scenario and plan himself. Because this can really happen, and we have already seen this more than once, that the opponent does not even need to do anything. Man City itself will create moments for you. He himself does not realize his moment in the attack. And that's all. That is, PSG can take and go further without any action at all, without any participation, simply because Pep Guardiola is such a football creator here. I adore him, of course, but in such matches sometimes I don't understand how the team doesn't understand him, with all my respect. So the pre-match layouts are of course good, but here each of the coaches can come up with the highest quality plan. Right here, ideally with math calculations, the interaction of each player with every other player will be thought out. But if at least one link falls out, then everything will fall down like, I don't know, like dominoes, like house of cards. In that kind of game, everyone in team should not only know his role, but also perform at a high level. And now let's imagine how you can play in the place of coaches. For the City, I would choose about the same formation as in the first game with Borussia, that is 4-2-3-1. On the right flank of the defense, there is definitely Walker with more defensive functions against running Mbappe or Neymar displacements. On the left, I would rather prefer Zinchenko, since I have a feeling that Kanzel will not be allowed to enter the game regularly anyway, and if he will play too much on his own, he will be punished immediately. Rodri and Gundogan should be placed in the support, and above them Kevin De Bruyne. On the right is Mahrez, on the left is Foden, because he has enough strength to work out in the center of the field and support the attacks in front. And yet I would probably start the game with such a forward as Jesus. He can help in pressing, and at some point he can pull the player out of the penalty area in order to make the zone free, and so on. So in general he can be useful. Then, depending on the plot, depending on who will lead, how the game will proceed, you never know the injury, you never know the red card. There, of course, in the course of the game, you need to change the whole thing. And let me remind you that this is all very brief, it is all very primitive, without detailed tasks and functions, because if we now come up with a task for every player, a function at a certain point in time and so on, that is, write everything down as coaches usually do, then it will take an hour, maybe an hour and a half, 2, 3, I don't know how long will it take. Moreover, let you keep in mind how multifunctional City players are, and what I described earlier, and I think if you are looking at the City matches in details, then you know that their standard is a kind of classic game, that they play well, and if Man City plays like this without inventing anything, each of the players will fulfill his function clearly, everything will be fine for Man City. I even looked out the window in hope that Pep Guardiola was looking at me from the window and seeing me, and he went like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. So in short, just play as usual, you know how to play, and everything will be fine with you. Now, as for PSG, here I would choose something like 4-3-3 or even 4-3-1-2. For the line of defense, I think everything is clear, there are no special alternatives, and in center of the field I would have been reinsured by initially releasing a combination of Guia Paredes to enter the attack, and in addition either Verratti if he is in shape or Herrera if Verratti is not ready. On the flanks, Mbappe and Di Maria. Here Di Maria sinks lower on the field, works out in defense, Mbappe is always ahead, and Neymar is nominally in the center of attack. but in fact he would be lowered to the center of the field to the ball and dragged forward. That is, you understand, yes, in such a combination of PSG it will be possible to play a reliable 4-4-2 without possession, and if you have a very good possession of the ball, you still get good attacking combinations 4-3-3 or even 4-2-3-1. In general, everything will depend on this situation, on how the match will proceed further, and how every player will show himself on the field. In general, there are a lot of small accents, aspects that we cannot just predict and spy on. Although we can ask Zidane to do this, but it's unlikely that he will do it because he's busy now. In short, if we talk about some kind of percentage, then for good here of course 50-50, but for bad I would give 55-45 in favor of Man City, simply because I personally want him to finally take the Champions League. I'm repeating, these are my pre-match layouts. You should write your own in the comments, but in general this match will be, I think, very interesting in terms of a tactical battle, because both teams have enough resources to invent something. But it's better to not invent anything, let them play as they can, and it will be great for all of us. If you liked what you see, give me a like. If you didn't like it, then dislike, but better not. It's better to ring the bell, but not to yourself.